It's Divas That Care Radio. Stories, strategies, and ideas to inspire positive change. Welcome to Divas That Care, a network of women committed to making our world a better place for everyone. This is a global movement for women, by women, engaged in a collaborative effort to create a better world for future generations. To find out more about the movement, visit divasthatcare.com after the show. Right now, though, stay tuned for another jolt of inspiration.
Well, hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Divas That Care. My name is Candace Gish. Well, I'm so excited that each and every one of you has tuned in for today's program. We're going to be welcoming back one of our past divas. I'm excited to be chatting with her. I'm excited to be seeing or to be hearing what she's been up to, and we'll be able to share it with all of you guys. If this is your very first time tuning into the Divas That Care, you know what? A big welcome to you. We love having new listeners. Check us out. We have an amazing website at divasthatcare.com where you can listen to a variety of amazing hosts, and all of our shows are recorded, so you can definitely check them out. All right, today's guest is Valerie Green. Welcome back, Valerie. I'm so excited to chat with you.
Hi, Candace. So happy to be here.
Oh, my gosh. I am so excited because we always have great conversations. But before we kind of dive into today's topic, would you mind introducing yourself to our new listeners?
Wonderful. So I am Valerie Green, and I'm a relationship coach who helps people inspire their partner to deeper levels of intimacy, desire, and commitment to meeting your deepest needs and your deepest vision for what you deserve in your relationship. And I work with both men and women and couples because I just really think that it boils down to the same principles of coming from your heart, deciding what it is that you want to create, and inspiring the person that you want to inspire into the vision. And if they're not the right person for you. But that depth of inner clarity is what we all need. And usually, as long as we have that inner clarity about what we want, and we're able to shift our vibe from focusing on what we don't want to focusing on what we want, and then learning how to inspire them, which is what I'll be talking about today, then, if you have that, then you can create anything.
I completely agree. And that's what we need, is we need individuals like yourself coming on here and sharing great things with us, because we all need some assistance in our relationships. But I want to ask you first is, how did you get to be a relationship coach for women?
Yeah, and I do think I'm uniquely qualified because it was just, first of all, always my inner passion. And I actually started out as a health coach, but it was like, when I was working with clients, helping them to eat healthier and lose weight and stop emotional eating, it was really obvious that I would help them the most with their relationships. Like, they wouldn't be following their health protocol because of a struggle they were having with their partner, and I would help them more with that than with the food. And so I realized, this is what I'm passionate about. And as I was learning, so I decided, I'm going to just switch my focus to relationships, and I did, I don't even know, 10 additional relationship-specific trainings after that. And, of course, use the tools in the trenches in my own relationships, because I would keep on, and I don't know if our listeners can relate to this, I would just keep on having this pattern in my relationships where as soon as I would get close to somebody, I would push them away. And, it would be, my relationships would last several years, but then we would get into conflict, and I wouldn't know why. That would always drive us apart, and I would wind up having like a 3-year shelf life for my relationships, and that got really old when I hit my 30s. And I just remember saying, I'm really going to figure this out. And so with my current husband, when I first met him, he wasn't looking for a committed relationship, and that brought up all my stuff, but I was finally able to walk my talk. And inspire him to lifelong partnership when that's what he wasn't interested in. And when I took all those tools and applied them to creating programs that helped couples, because I also transitioned my previous marriage into a very loving, connected friendship, and I have that. My husband endorses me on my About page, so you can look at that. But I was really good at helping people in all stages of relationship, and I felt like I'd lived through all of them myself. And it just so happened that when I applied the tools that worked for me to my single clients, that they started attracting their life partner, and to my couples, that they were able to transform conflict into intimacy. And so it's something that I'm just really passionate about, and You'll have to find what your passion is, and this is where mine lies. It's just I wanted to pick the thing that I thought I could never really, because relationships you can never really figure out, even if you dedicate your life to it. And so that's why I chose that, because I'm like the kind of person that needs to go all the way with anything.
I love that. And, I want to go back because I like how you said in the beginning that you worked with life coaching and doing that kind of stuff and working with people on fitness and health. And then you realized that it kind of related to relationships. And I want to ask you, I know this is kind of a side topic, but you've obviously found that out quite a bit. And I hear different people talking about that. It all kind of leads back into relationships. And I think that's a lot of the reason why perhaps we don't do the healthy stuff that we need to do for our bodies.
Yeah. I mean, or specifically just how we process our feelings and how we express our feelings, because relationships bring up our deepest feelings, and if we don't have productive ways of handling that, then usually we'll, use something, and it might be food, in order to not feel that feeling. Some people reach for substances, and people, shop or distract themselves or watch TV or whatever. And it's not like there's anything wrong with doing something like watching TV. It's just what ways of handling your emotions, processing your emotions actually work for you to be able to identify your truth and your needs and get clarity underneath them.
Well, and I think that's why it's important that we talk to people about that, because sometimes we don't see that within ourselves.
Oh, completely. Yeah. I mean, it's hard to see the forest for the trees. And I do think, of course, we're biased, but that's why it's important to talk to other people about our feelings. Find people you trust, professionals and or, of course, close friends that you and family that you trust. It doesn't have to be a professional. But I like to say that wounds that were created in relationship have to be healed in relationship. And unfortunately, the whatever we feel we haven't resolved from the past comes up. And I'm a coach, not a therapist. So the way that I handle that is I teach people the skills in order to process their feelings. And because it's just going to keep coming up. And
exactly.
And how you process them and how you express, at least for me. And so this is, of course, we attract clients that mirror our own transformation. This was and is my biggest transformation. And to be honest, my husband keeps me honest, right? Because it's like when I express my feelings in an inspiring way, and I take the mindset into account that I'll share in this interview, which is the win-win mindset. So I'm really focused on what I want and what he wants, and a win-win. If I take that mindset, he'll do anything for me. It's like he'll move mountains in order to make me happy. And I mean, that's why I moved back to New York, and he's actually still in the other place we were living, wrapping up our old life. And now we have the opportunity to do long distance, which I've never done before, which is kind of exciting. Although I say that now, since it's been like, he just got home 2 days ago, right? So it's like I'll have to blog about how that goes. That could be a whole other topic, right?
That could be a whole other topic, exactly. So tell me, Valerie.
But he keeps me honest, and it's like when I'm sorry, I just want to finish this. That like when I'm, focusing on complaining a lot about what I don't have, or expressing my feelings in a way that pushes him away, then it's not like he doesn't give me what I want, but it's a lot harder, and we have to butt heads a lot, and we argue, and then we make up and we repair, and it's like, why go through that? When if I express it in an inspiring way, then it'll go much better. And so that's why these are the tools that I teach, because I live them in my own life.
Oh, yes, exactly. Well, and that kind of brings me to the question that I have is, what are the two mistakes that women make when they're trying to express their feelings that push men away?
Yeah, and these are really, I just talk about these a lot. I go over them in the free ebook that I'll give as my free gift at the end, but they're pretty simple. It's just how men are wired, because masculine men do have a lot more testosterone, and it does make them much more prone to being sensitive to being made wrong. Women are just, feminine women, when we have a lot more estrogen, and oxytocin is what motivates us. It's like our deepest fear is that we're not loved. but it's important to understand a man's deepest fear, a masculine man, his deepest fear is that he's failing. And so when we tell him what he's doing wrong, which is usually how we tell a man what we want, like, no, I don't like that. I don't like it when you do that. I feel bad when you do that. It's like, there's nothing wrong with expressing it that way. But if you make a man wrong, which is mistake number one, if you do it in a way where you're focusing on what you don't want, which kind of maps onto the law of attraction, then he'll feel like, I'm failing. And it'll just be way harder for him to stay present. And so you're just like making it a lot more stressful for him to be able to give you what you want. So that's the first mistake. And I go into more depth in terms of why that is and some examples in the free gift. And then the second mistake, which seems obvious, like, okay, I shouldn't make him wrong. Let me tell him what I want instead. We do that in a way that tells him what to do. Like, oh, well, I want you to, the example I always give is to take the trash out or to call more or whatever, right? Very common examples. And, if you already have a good connection with him, it's fine. If he asks, what do you want me to do, to tell him, like, then he wants you to tell him. But in general, men, when you tell him what to do a lot, he'll feel mothered, and then he'll feel not romantically attracted to you. So it'll be a conflict, like, I can do what she wants, but then I won't be attracted to her anymore. Or I can resist and still maintain my sovereignty, and there's attraction possible, but she's not happy. So it's like a double bind for him when he's in that space, because he, like, feels mothered. And so I know that it seems like, okay, well, don't make him wrong. Don't tell him what to do. What do I do instead? And what's important is, and this is just, I'm learning this on a deeper level now, because when I was living in the place that we moved to, and even the way that we moved back, I was really uncomfortable. Like, we wound up basically living in a camper trailer in the woods for 6 weeks in October, November in New York City, and I was freezing the whole time. So, like, if I focus on, not literally freezing, but, complaining, it's like, I also teach about the pillars. Like, you have to, the John Gottman's research shows that couples that make it in the long term, there's a 5-to-1 ratio of positive affect to negative, in the broad definition of those things, pleasant to unpleasant. So you have to focus on building the pillars of positive connection. If I'm complaining all the time, it's like, that's going to push him away too. But obviously there's, intimacy into me see by having him know how I'm feeling, but then I have to keep myself resourced to focus on the positive more than the negative. And so that's when I really realized there's two main mindset shifts that are important when you express your feelings that make all the difference, as long as you're focusing on what you want rather than what you don't want. And those make all the difference, whether he's inspired and wants to make you happy or whether he's pushed away. And when I put these into practice, it was like, we didn't plan to move back to New York, but here I am, because he wanted to make me happy, and he's doing all the work to wrap up our lives where they were so that I could be here now. But, when I express my feelings in a way where I don't have these two mindset shifts, where I'm just basically, for lack of a better word, complaining, not that there's anything wrong with complaining, but it's just we would butt heads and it wouldn't feel good and it would be in a power struggle. And so it was really important for me to walk my talk. And so I'll explain what these mindset shifts are. So the first one, like I said in the beginning, it's that win-win mindset. And so that's how, it's not like you can't tell him what you want him to do, but it's important that you present that in a way where you're not attached to him doing that thing. You're attached to a win-win. And that's what's important to communicate. Because, like, if you're like, hey, I want you to, you take a really simple example. I want you to always take the garbage out. It's like, well, why does that work for him? Let's say it wouldn't work for him because he's already doing everything else. We don't know the context. But you have to have your awareness on that space of mutuality. Like, what is it that he needs and what is it that you need, and what's the solution that takes what he needs into account? Because then he'll feel like you're not selfish. Because men are not necessarily scared, in my opinion, of committing to a woman as much as they're scared of committing to a woman where they'll feel controlled and then a double bind, and like she'll be like, well, if you really love me, you'll do this thing that you don't really want to do. And that's what their
that makes sense.
fear is. And so if you present what you want in the my way or the highway mentality, then that'll push them away versus presenting it in the, well, I care about what you want too, and how do we make that work for both of us? And it doesn't have to look the way I want. How would it work for you? And so the whole time, as soon as I was clear I wanted to move back to New York, that was my attitude. I'm like, oh, and this is what I help couples figure out when they come to me, or individuals figure out. I actually use a process that comes from John Gottman. I call it the win-win solution exercise, where you determine what's the yolk of the egg and what's the white of the egg. Meaning the yolk of the egg is what you're completely inflexible on, and the white of the egg is what you're more flexible on. And so when you're developing this win-win, you want to make sure that it honors both of the yolks, for, lack of a better analogy, but you can compromise on the white parts and you won't feel resentful. And that's how you know. If you're going to feel resentful, it's not a win-win, right? If one person does. And so I'm like, okay, well, all I care about is that I am no more than an hour away from my friends and family, and I'm flexible on everything else. Like, what works for you? And he made it work for him. And every day we talk on the phone, and I'm like, how do you get your needs met? Like, I'm getting my needs met here. You still feel isolated there. How do you make that work for you? And I'm going to help you figure that out if you want to bounce ideas off of me, or, let's make sure that I'm in your corner advocating for you getting all your needs met. And, you can borrow my brain, I'll borrow your brain. 2 heads are better than one. And if he really feels like you're on his team, then you can express your feelings about what, like, okay, here's how I feel when I get what I want. Here's how I feel when I don't get what I want. What do you think? And
you know what, Valerie, I just want to interrupt you here for a second. Wouldn't it be great if this was taught to high school students when they're first getting into those relationships, like college students, like all these young individuals, before you get into a relationship, this is a course you need to take, because wouldn't that simplify things so much for people and take away a lot of the heartache?
I know. Yeah, I preaching the choir here. And in fact, I do know Michael Jazz, and I believe it's the Healthy Relationship Foundation, but I'm not sure. They are teaching nonviolent communication in school. So there are some organizations that are doing that, which has a win-win mindset at its core. Value system, so it's like starting to happen. But yeah, I mean, wouldn't it be great if this was taught in high school, college, even like adult education courses and institutions? I mean, I think that, relationship skills just aren't really taught. Yeah, in a larger scale. A lot
of courses you need to take before you get married too, that, different religions and stuff, they always have these courses that you take before you get married. It's like, would this not be a perfect one that everyone should take? Because, maybe the divorce rate would be going down because you would have an understanding on how you're expressing your feelings. And I love this whole process.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely something that I didn't learn in school for sure. And I think most modeling that I had as a child, I mean, I was lucky to have parents that were pretty positive focused. Like, they were really into Tony Robbins and Wayne Dyer and focused on the positive. But that's certainly not what's modeled in our culture. And, a lot of times growing up, I felt like I had to just like complain to people because that's what everyone was doing. And that's how you belong, is like you share the complaining. And that is kind of a large part of the culture. And that's a big part of, what we have to take a risk going against the grain to not just be a Pollyanna and say, oh, everything is great. Instead, like that's, not transformative either. Of course, it's better to focus on the positive than to what you don't like. But, true intimacy in relationships is about, and I'll talk about the second mindset shift. The first is to have that win-win mindset where you're expressing what you want and your feelings in terms of a win-win. this is how I feel, but this is how I want to feel in a way that works for you, right? Relating it to what you want. But the second thing is to have the vision. And in my opinion, if we're talking to women about women and assuming women want to be the feminine partner, and I don't make that assumption with, everyone, because I believe in free choice. But the feminine partner is the one who's responsible for setting the emotional tone and doing the inner work to feel positive about relating to what you want and expressing the vision. This is what I want. This is what it provides for me. This is how I want to feel. This is how I want it to feel for us. This is my vision of what's possible. What do you think? How do you want to make that happen? And then the masculine partner's job takes care of the logistics in terms of how to make that happen. And it's a beautiful partnership for those who choose those roles. And I would say that most of my female clients want to be the feminine partner, so that's who I'm speaking to. But some male clients want to be the feminine partner. It's like whatever works for everyone, right? But inside of that, the second mindset is the vision is what's most important. I was just explaining this to a client earlier in terms of expressing her anger. It's a big cortisol rush for a man to witness a woman's anger. If you're even if you're expressing anger at someone else in front of him, it brings up his where is he? I want to beat him up kind of hormonal reaction. It's just men they have a lot of testosterone. It's a stressful experience to be around a woman's anger. And that's if he doesn't have charge from his mom around it. And so, if she's just well, I want my boyfriend to listen to my anger. And I'm great, but what's in it for him? Why? What's the vision? What are you, why, what is the vision about why that's better than him not doing it? He doesn't understand that. He's just when I'm angry, when she's angry around me, I feel uncomfortable. Why should I have to be around it? But he'll do it if he feels like he understands why. And it's obvious to us because when we get together with our girlfriends, we vent and give each other empathy and we feel better when we feel closer to them. That's obvious, but it's not obvious to most men because they're not socialized like that. They don't do that with their guy friends. So it's you have to be the one that paints the picture for him. And that's the second mindset shift, is the vision. So it was I'll give a really specific example, and it's about me again. A lot of times I talk about clients, but this has all been really poignant for me lately because a lot of relationship coaches teach that it's not good to express your insecurities. You should deal with them first, and then, insecurities push a guy away. And I'm one of those people where I always talk about actually it's good to express your insecurities inside of a committed relationship, inside of a committed partnership, with these two mindset shifts. And I just really saw one night, where you see that fork in the road and you're oh my God, if I go down that path, it's going to be a disaster. And if I go down this path, it's going to go great. I had one of those inspiring moments in the shower, getting ready for a date when we were in the camper trailer. So I was just really feeling physically uncomfortable that whole time. So I had to walk my talk more, So it was we're doing this plan for him to be actually gone for about 3 months, cleaning up our old life and stuff back there while I'm with my friends and family in New York, and he's there feeling isolated. And obviously I was processing my feelings about that, feeling a little insecure. What's going to make him be okay with that? But if I just express that insecurity, because we're already kind of in the place where the pillars aren't that strong because it's a lot of hardships and we're not comfortable. And if I just start to express my insecurities, he's going to be come on, it's fine. Why are you saying this again? And it's just, I'm not going to feel reassured and he's going to feel annoyed. And I could just see that path. And I'm sure that a lot of us are used to that, right? I certainly have been caught in that cycle in the past. And so I decided instead I was going to use these two principles, and it was just really clear to me. And so I approached him and I was I have this vision for our date tonight where I express something that's uncomfortable and you give me reassurance in a way that's deeper than you have before. And because of that, I'm able to feel really comfortable for the next 3 months apart from you because of this vision we create together. And I expressed the vision of how we were going to be staying in contact and advocating for each other's, needs. And, every day I'd be like, what'd you do that was fun? And what can you do? And we're really on each other's team. And I gave him space when he wanted. And like, that would allow me to do that. And that's the vision that I want. And does he want that too? And of course he does. And so then I expressed the insecurity, which was, it was something that he told me about a previous relationship where when he was long distance, like he grew apart, and I just wanted to know how when we're long distance we would stay closer. But I remembered, I felt a little insecure because he had told me that in the past. And it was, if I just said that, then he probably would have felt like, oh, come on. She's like harping on this thing I said about the past, at least a voice in his head would have said that, right? And I'm sure that we can all relate on some level. But because he's awesome. He wouldn't have said that out loud or anything. But still, you can tell the way it feels. And because I was able to stay focused on what I wanted, what that would provide for me, how I wanted that to feel, the vision of how that would, cause us to feel connected for the next few months, even though we're long distance and it would be fun. Then he was like, oh, great. Yes, I want that too. And of course, this is the ways in which it's different from the past. And of course, of course you would have your attention on that. And here's how it's going to be different. And we laid out this whole vision. It was beautiful. And then I did feel reassured. And we had a really connected date after that because I got to express my feelings and he got to give me the reassurance. And then I felt closer to him.
That's perfect. And that's what we should all do. And I think, and then, I know we're coming to a close with our program, and there's so many questions that I have for you that I would love to continue on to this topic. For all of our listeners, just to kind of give you a heads up for Valerie, she was on a program of ours back in September. So I want you guys to go check out that, re-listen to that one, because it's an amazing program, and she talks about a 12-week manifesting lasting love coaching program. So Valerie, you mentioned that you have a gift for our listeners, but I also want you to mention your website so that our listeners can, contact you, because I know there's a lot of people listening today that are looking for a relationship coach.
Definitely, yeah. So everyone's welcome to check out my website. I have a lot of free resources on there too. It's CoachValerieGreen.com. So that's VALERIE. And green, like the color with an E at the end, CoachValerieGreen.com. And I do have a free gift on there for both couples and women in relationship and single women. And so you can choose which one is right for you. Today, I'm talking about the gift for women in relationship because this is how to express your feelings in a way that inspires him. It's called Manifest Lasting Love. And it's, even if you're just dating a guy, this formula would work. But obviously, if you're single and you don't know a guy, then this is how to express your feelings to any man in your life. It's a formula that really works for masculine people in general, and you can try it out. I give a 5-step formula for how to express your feelings in a way that inspires him. And I explain and use a lot of these principles that I talked about in this interview. And so if you share the link for that below, it's just my website /e-guide, because it was the first of my many free gifts that I actually wrote. Actually, I think I wrote it in 2015, but the principles are still very important today.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you so much for that. And Valerie, I definitely would love to have you back on the program in the new year. Maybe spend some more time talking even about this some more.
Oh, yeah. And I am definitely going to be having to put these tools into practice even more since I won't be seeing my husband for a little bit. The communication between he and I is going to be even more important, and so I can refine it on a deeper level.
Well, that's perfect. And, for all of our listeners that are up here in Canada, and I know quite a few of them are oil field wives, it's a great thing because a lot of our husbands work away from home and we don't see them for weeks at a time.
For sure. Let's talk about that.
Excellent. Well, thank you again to my amazing guest, Valerie Green. I'm going to be posting all of Valerie's information on our social media. And make sure that you take this podcast and send it to your family and friends. You know, that's why we love having relationship experts on our program like Valerie Green, and we love supporting other women. So make sure all of our listeners check her out. Make sure that you also do something kind. I think it's really important. We are coming across the Christmas season, and I always think kindness is an important thing. So make sure you guys do something kind. Thank you, guys. Have a fantastic day. And until next time, everyone.
Thanks for listening. This show was brought to you by Divas That Care. Connect with us on Facebook, on Instagram, and of course on divasthatcare.com, where you can subscribe to our newsletter so you don't miss a thing.